Guys, welcome back to another episode of Before the First Cast. Guys, tonight we have a special guest, Mr. Billy Kohl. We are going to discuss. He just fished a BFL and did really well, and he is going to give you guys the juice of what happened on Smith Mountain Lake during his BFL. So, guys, stay tuned, and we should have Billy very soon. Guys, welcome back. I have Mr. Billy Kohl with us. Billy, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Can't complain. Can't complain.
Great.
So the reason I wanted to have you on, you had a very successful weekend in the BFLs. You got second on Saturday and fifth on Sunday. So I kind of wanted to bring you on just to walk my listeners and viewers through what happened this weekend that made it so successful.
Yeah, man. As most of the people know that probably listen to this or will see this, I'm a guide on the lake, so I'm on the water quite a bit. Obviously, time on the water is a massive benefit to tournament fishing too, especially something like the BFL coming in and having two back to back, which is pretty unique. So that definitely helped as far as kind of the adjustment and stuff like that. But the lake was fishing pretty weird. It's still fishing a little funky for some guys, and I think honestly the first stop pretty much dictated my entire weekend. I practiced for a couple days. I had a couple guide trips earlier in the week. I never really found anything in practice that really jumped out at me. Couple mag draft bites, couple jig bites, couple minnow bites, and I was kind of just like, okay, we're just gonna kind of see how it goes. So um, Saturday drew a later boat number. I think it was 110, 112, something like that. And really from there, like I said, my first spot, I honestly ran to a spot that I didn't even check in practice. Down on the lower end, I had, through guiding a couple weeks before, I had a kind of a pre-spawn pocket ditch that had maybe like, I don't know, 10 bass floating around in it. And just going with the gut feeling in the morning of just like, hey, let's go kind of see how the fish are set up. And went to that first spot. And when I dropped the trolling motor on live scope, there was like 50 bass sitting in this ditch. So kind of just like a time on the water, understanding a little bit of like the pre-spawn movement and a spot that I had from a couple weeks ago. So I was able to kind of utilize that area as a starting spot and go back to it multiple times throughout the day and catch some good fish.
Mhm.
But really, it was just kind of that like go with your gut. Let's go see if there's any fish in this area. And usually that doesn't happen on the first stop, but luckily on the first stop, I kind of ran into some and they were chewing the first day. It was pretty awesome to just be able to kind of cast out there and get them to bite right away. So
So my next question is, do you think Smith Mountain Lake is more of a pattern lake or a spot lake?
um, both, man. It's probably one of the harder lakes in Virginia as far as like every single day is the same pattern.
Mhm.
I think it's definitely area based, spot based, like down into the nitty gritty, like detail of it. Yes, but it wasn't as much for this kind of BFL. It was kind of more like, hey, match these kind of contour lines up and see if there's stuff there. We had one warming trend this spring that definitely push fish shallow off of the minnow bite, but then we've had some just wonky ass weather, and they're basically just up and down kind of the break line. To me, it feels like there's been fish in like 5 to 18 feet of water for a month that are
Mhm.
just sitting there, really hard to catch, lackadaisical, just kind of waiting. So some days it's like, okay, yeah, I got the pattern. It's a jerk bait, but then you literally go the next day and they follow a jerk bait and don't touch it. Change colors 5 times, nothing happens, and then all of a sudden they're back on the minnow. So
Yeah.
um, less pattern, more just kind of area, and then just having to kind of break down, exactly what they want every day. So.
So for success on Saturday, what were kind of your baits and techniques you were using for Saturday?
Sure. Saturday and Sunday the same on the starting spot. For me, that was a Megabass 110 Junior. This is Crystal Shad is what it's called. It's kind of like a blueback kind of translucent color since I was kind of fishing in some clear water to start. Most important part, honestly, was the cadence. It was more of a like pull cadence than a like super jerk bait cadence. And I was
Mhm.
able to kind of get some bites and get some stuff going early. But definitely the jerk bait for probably the first 3 hours. More than just that first spot, pretty much any spot that I ran to for the first 3 hours, I was throwing a jerk bait.
Hmm.
Follow up bait, pretty straightforward. If they didn't commit to the jerk bait, I'd reel it away from them as fast as possible and throw just the old minnow.
Hmm.
Um, Throwing a mooch minnow, that's pretty much what every dude's throwing this year since it is a super good bait. It's a last tech. You only need like a couple a day. One thing that I did do different than probably most dudes is I threw a 1/16th. So stupid light. And I was still tossing at fish that were in like 20 to 30 feet. So really long casts, really leading fish. And they kind of told me right away, like, if I threw it and it went down 18 feet and one from 30 came up and blasted it, like I knew they were
Hmm.
kind of on more on the minnow deal versus the jerk bait. It wasn't a lot of minnow stuff where you're like kind of holding it in place and hovering it. They were going to eat it. Um,
Right.
if they were going to eat it. So that's kind of what my starting baits were. And honestly, the first day, which was insane to say because the water temp was only 49 degrees, there was actually fish schooling.
Oh.
So I grabbed my topwater box for the second day and threw a topwater for a little bit. I never got anything to do anything, but
Mm.
they were basically in that 0 to like 5 foot range up at the top to eat the jerk bait, and then they were suspended over treetops in that like 20 to 30 to 35, chasing the minnow. And then after I felt like I had a decent limit, I think day one I maybe had like 13 pounds, and then I was like, okay, like we got to change something up. I know it's going to be tough, but not this tough. I just picked up a 6-inch mag draft. Everyone
Mm.
knows I throw this a ton, and you should definitely throw it a ton right now. This is just the solid white shad, um, 6-inch. I tried throwing an 8. I never really got any bites, but at about 12:30 on the first day, I just started skipping docks and running the little wind that we did get, just running pretty much the first couple docks going into pockets and the last couple docks in pockets to see how far along the fish had moved
Hmm.
since practice. And I just got, I got 3 mag draft bites basically from 12 until I had to check in on the second day. I think one was pushing 6 and, a couple other key fish under some docks with the mag. So
So going back to your jerk bait, do you think size mattered, like the smaller profile? Because I know in Smith Mountain the bait fish can be smaller, like the threadfin. Do you
yeah,
think a big play in it?
yeah, I definitely threw a regular 110 and just kind of got follows and stuff like that. So I knew I had both rigged up. And with how they were set in the column, it's pretty easy to see what kind of size they want when they're in that like 0 to 10 feet, we'll call it.
Hmm.
Because those fish are looking to eat. They're not up there just to kind of chill. They're looking to eat as well as kind of warm up. So I threw a regular 110 and they just kind of followed it. As soon as I threw the junior out there, they would crush it.
Hmm.
What I probably could have done to get more bites is go down to like, a Nanahan or like something real small, to just kind of see if there was something there. And then on day two, what I did is I took 2 juniors. One junior had lead wire wrapped on it to try to get it down to some of those deeper fish, and the other one was just kind of a um, regular junior go 7 to 9 feet, something like that.
Yeah, and the next question I had was with the mooch minnow. Did were they eating it on the fall with the slower fall rate?
Yeah, and that's why I did go the lower fall rate was whatever natural presentation you can do, like the lighter you go, the better. The way that the like Demiki bite transitions through the winter is it definitely goes from like you have to like feed it to them to almost like they're swimming around and actively eating, so you really don't have to work the bait that much. It was more just of like that dying shad kind of flicking movement. Some of them I had to like flick it 4 or 5 times, but most of the time it was basically just like leave your bail open, pendulum, watch them on live scope, lean into them, and they were there. So
So did you use a smaller, like a shorter? I guess that's the right word. Shorter bait for that, like a 5 inch instead of like a 6 inch, or you just
on the
the
on
mooch?
the minnow, yeah.
Yeah,
So using like a 3 inch.
3 inch.
So this was a 1/16 head,
Mm-hmm.
little. I think it's a 2/0 hook. And just basically like the head design's actually pretty weird. Like I'll take the moochman off of here, but I mean, there's like no weight on this thing.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't hard to cast, but it definitely was like, okay, this is taking forever to get down there. But that's just kind of part of the game with the minnow stuff.
Right.
Hold on, I gotta rip this thing because, like I said, it's a last tech and it's like impossible to get off of here.
Did did you use different line diameters? Did you downsize, upsize for it?
No, so that's kind of the head design for anybody that wants to see it. It's kind of got like a little notch to it or whatever that basically kept the mooch on there pretty good.
Yeah.
I throw 7 pound sunline for majority of like my bottom contact and minnow stuff. I don't really have to go. I don't feel like I have to go down to get
Mm-hmm.
big bites, down to say like 6, 5 in that range. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there's a little bit to it, but also, we had cloud cover most of the days. Like the fish were in like an aggressive kind of eating pattern, so it wasn't anything that I felt like I really needed to downsize on the line.
Mm-hmm.
10 pound on the jerk bait, 20 pound on the mag draft. Like just try to keep it as simple as possible and not overthink that piece of it because they were eating it pretty good. So
And did you ever think, because I know the Megabass just came out with a 5-inch mag draft. Did you ever think maybe downsize to that, or they were just eating the 6 pretty good? That
yeah. Um, I've caught a couple on the 5. I only have a couple. And yeah, I mean, once I caught that one pushing 6, that was the first one I caught on the 6 inch. I was just kind of like, all right, I'm just going to run the 6. And honestly, I went the other way. Instead of picking up a 5 to get more bites, I threw the 8 to try to see if I could get another 6 or 7
mm-hmm.
to kind of eat it. But they were pretty hot on it. The 6 had it absolutely choked.
Mm-hmm.
And the other two, they throttled it pretty good. So I knew I was on the right color. I knew I was on the right bait. It was more of kind of how far back in the creeks they were set up. My key fish on Saturday actually was a dock that I never looked at in practice, and I ran over there, skipped it. It was an isolated kind of dock, and I got bumped really good. And my
Mm-hmm.
co-angler was watching live scope at the back, and I turned live scope, and he's like, "Holy crap! Look at all those fish!" And I looked at my screen, and there was like 30 fish following the mag draft out, and I was like, "Oh, it's just stripers under this dock," because the
Mm-hmm.
stripers have been doing stupid stuff like hanging under the docks.
That's not normal.
Yeah, but I just skipped it under there again, being like, I don't know, we'll check and see if it's a striper. And I caught a 4 pounder. And when I boat flipped the thing, there was like 15 4 pounders trying to eat the mag draft out of this one fish's mouth.
Wow.
So for the last hour, I ran back to that dock like 4 or 5 times. I threw everything I could think of under there: fluke, chatterbait, spinnerbait, 8 inch mag, like anything I could think of to try to get one more bite out of there because the bass were still under there, and I just never got them to go. So it was just like a total luck, like bite window, hitting the right dock at the right time, kind of situation.
Yeah. Did you ever? Well, where did you stay most of Saturday? Did you stay lower in the river?
No, I did lower end and Blackwater for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, for all of it, I don't think I ran above Carter's Island. I mean, a couple things with BFLs, dude, especially with that much pressure and that many boats.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of put it in my head of, I had guide trips earlier in the week. I usually don't run from Parkway way up the rivers and burn 25 bucks in gas. Like there's plenty of fish
Mm-hmm.
to catch well before running up to say like the bridge or above Guild or something like that. So I was already kind of like feeling those areas. I
Mm-hmm.
checked the Roanoke one day, caught a couple like 3 pounders, but it wasn't really popping off for me. But what I was hoping happened actually did happen, which is a lot of the guys that I think didn't get a lot of practice, which no fault to their own, they ran up into the rivers because it was stained.
Right.
And I would have put that assumption together too if it was me going to a lake that I don't get to go to all the time. Of like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, the river was blown out for a month, which means those fish didn't get a lot of pressure. The dirty water warms up first. Like it's springtime. There should be some pretty big ones kind of out and about in the Roanoke. I just never found that bite.
Mm-hmm.
But I had a lot of the Blackwater in the lower end myself. I didn't see a ton of boats. I didn't see anybody really on any of my spots. Starting spot, I had no problem getting on either day. So it just kind of worked out that way where I think everybody kind of ran up and away,
Mm-hmm.
and I live down by Parkway, so it was easier for me to just kind of stay down there and not and maximize fishing time. So
Yeah, sometimes that river can bite you because
yeah,
there's definitely been tournaments we fished and we're like, why do we go all the way up here and run all this gas and
yeah,
come up empty handed? We end up going back down to like the Gills area. So
yeah.
I could see where that could happen if you haven't had a lot of time on that lake.
Sure.
Uh,
Well, but the other side to it too, Calvin, like I mean, I started guiding pretty much right after the BFL, and all my fish on the lower end and Craddock, Witchers, and the Blackwater
Mm-hmm.
2 days after the tournament are either gone or they're more in the spawn mode than they are in eating. So I think it was just kind of like I said, just kind of that gut feeling and luck of like your first spot kind of tells you what's going on. And that kind of just led me down where I felt like I needed to go. So
Yeah. So speaking about Sunday, what changed from Saturday to Sunday for you, if anything?
I actually think I messed up Sunday. I don't think I could have caught up to Brody, but I think I probably should have had closer to like 18 to 19 pounds, not 16 or 17. But I went to that starting spot again, and it actually was better than the first day. I had a limit in like 15 minutes, like a decent limit, like 12, 13 pounds again. Um, and then I ran mag draft stuff for about 2 hours. And that's where I messed up because the mag draft deal this early in the spring is usually not till like 12 o'clock or after. We need the water to warm up. We need the fish to come off the points and kind of go back towards the docks and back pockets and stuff like that. But the fish that threw me kind of off the path was I threw a crankbait back on a rock vein way back in a pocket and had like a 14-incher eat it, and like a 4.5 pound smallmouth was trying to grab the crankbait out of his face
Mm,
at like noon. And so, like an idiot, I said, all right, the bite's tougher. Like, I'm not getting any big bait bites. My starting spot's only producing like 2 pounders, 3 pounders. And so I got out a bunch of spinning rods. I got out a Ned rig, shaky head, drop shot, 2.8 Kai Tech, little jig, and basically poked around to see if I could get
mm,
um, like some smallmouth. There was maybe, I don't know, maybe 10 to 15 smallmouth around on 2 or 3 points that I chased for about an hour and a half,
mm-hmm,
and never got anything to go. They'd kind of just chase the crankbait. They wouldn't follow the jerk bait. They didn't care about a minnow. They didn't care about a swimmer.
mm,
And then made an adjustment late and ran again to a pocket that I hadn't been to. And the stripers were all over this back pocket. And I was like, you know what? It's probably all stripers, but we'll go look in the back. Because sometimes what happens in the spring here is like bait gets pushed, the bass are on the bait, and then the striper come in, and then the bass leave. But sometimes what happens is the bass push way farther back, like in like 0 to 2 feet, like way in the back, and then they kind of hang out back there as opposed to like disperse.
mm-hmm,
So I just put the trolling motor on 10, skipped past like 5 or 6 docks, and I went back to a dock, the last dock in a pocket, and saw two blimps on live scope. And I was like, who knows, maybe they're carp, like whatever. And skipped the mag under there, and like two cranks, caught a 4.5 to cull out a 179. But that was like 240, and I was due at 330. So I kind of knew then like I should have just changed areas and just kept running the mag draft more.
mm-hmm.
And maybe I could have had one more, 2.5 pound cull or something like that to get me up to kind of more like 18, 19. But that's just the game, dude. Sometimes fish throw you off. And I figured those smallmouth were up and ready to eat with one trying to bite a crankbait out of another one's face. So
Yeah. So have you seen this tournament series or season in the spring that is more difficult to win, as in, the weights are higher? Because if you look at tournament history this spring, really uh, in the wintertime too, it's taking 20 pounds just to really cut a check,
yeah,
honestly.
yeah.
What,
Um,
yeah, I mean, what's your take on that?
so you know, it's kind of like depends on the bait type stuff. So like I'm not, well, I shouldn't say I'm not, because now I kind of am, but like maybe like 3 years ago, I wasn't a big like minnow guy. Like I'd go through a jerk bait and a crankbait before a minnow and a rig. The last couple of years, I've been working on the a rig and kind of understanding that, because I was sick of losing to guys that were just coming down here from Clater and just like chucking an a rig and beating everybody's ass.
Mm-hmm.
And then really getting dialed on the minnow deal. I had a lot of time away from home in January, so I didn't really get to like see exactly where fish were and kind of transitioning on the minnow deal. But as far as like some of the huge weights and like the cats or the bass kings or like the
Mm-hmm.
winter trail stuff like that, it's easier to catch bigger fish in the winter and the spring for sure. Once they come a little bit shallower, I think it's easier because again, everybody knows I chuck a mag draft a ton or like a big swim bait a ton. Like you really only need 5 bites in
Mm-hmm.
8 hours and you're going to have 20 pounds.
Right.
So if you can just force yourself to really not throw much else, you're gonna have 20. The other side to it is you can kind of do the other approach, which is if you just spend 4 or 5 days and you use your electronics to the max and either scope or side scan or whatever and find, 20 to 30 giant ones swimming around suspended and rotate those fish, you really don't have to adjust a ton. You just
Mm,
have to hit them at the right time to eat. And that might be a minnow, it might be a jerkbait, it might be an A rig, it might be a glide. Like you're just kind of finding those fish. So I mean, yeah, dude, this lake's insane. I love living here. I will never say that this lake is, sometimes it's frustrating, but I definitely think it's the best lake in Virginia. I think it's one of the better lakes on the East Coast. And if it takes 20 pounds to get a check,
mm.
um, that's just the game, man.
Yeah, and not to mention of the double digit bass we've seen just in the
Yep.
last months, like
Yep.
kind of crazy. And we had a 30-pound bag, or I think
Yep.
30 pounds.
And it's halfway to 40, bro.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
we wouldn't have saw that a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I think honestly, I think we're going to see 10 pounders pretty much December through March.
Mm-hmm,
From here on out, the extra cold weather helped. The shad kill super helped.
mm-hmm,
Um, live scope obviously helps to be able to target those fish a lot, but I mean, I think most of those are F1 bass, and I think we're probably going to see that a lot more. I mean, dude, the striper guides have been posting
mm-hmm,
photos of 10 pounders for the last 4 to 5 years that I've lived here at random times. So, they're out there kind of just floating around.
mm-hmm,
The big bass is here this weekend. I don't think it's going to take anything super crazy.
mm-hmm,
I think a lot of the like super, super big ones are either, done spawning or they're just waiting. We have a cold front coming in. It's supposed to frost tonight.
yeah.
Um, I don't know what it's going to take, but I hope somebody catches a 10 pounder because it'd be awesome. But I also think it's probably only going to take like 7 or 8 pounds.
That, yeah, I was thinking 7.5 to 8,
Yeah.
which I would not be on the lake this weekend because there's going to be hundreds of people out there.
Yeah, man. I don't know. I'm interested to see. Like, I think the weather's probably going to throw a few people for a loop to not want to come. And then, obviously the big bag that was caught, maybe that draws some extra people down. But yeah, dude, we'll see. I mean, I'll be out there on Saturday, just guiding around. If we run into a couple big ones, great. If we just go fun fishing and catch 15, 20 of them, even better.
Just sign up and just weigh them in. Why not?
I can't. They don't like guides fishing, man, which I think is stupid. I can't make a big one bite, but I
We
get
are
it.
crossed with luck, so
Yeah.
we just bring one by it, I guess.
Yep.
Oh, I mean, you had a very successful weekend. I mean, I can't even imagine catching that many and
Yeah.
catching weight like that's. But and it was in like just one general area, really.
Yeah.
You had a limit, what, within 15 minutes on Sunday?
Yeah. I mean, I had a limit within a half an hour both days. Yeah, dude. I mean, again, it's time on the water, gut instinct. Like if I ran up the Blackwater at 10:45 and I wasn't feeling it in 40 minutes, then I moved. Where I feel like a lot of people, and you can use this on other lakes too, man. I mean, it's just the gut feeling of like, hey, something's not on. I always try to remember specifically on Smith Mountain,
Mm-hmm.
and I try to use it on other lakes too. But like, there's always fish biting somewhere, dude. Like somebody's catching them somewhere. So just keep moving and keep kind of breaking it down. And if you feel like the area is dead or with live scope, if you feel like the fish aren't cooperating, then just move. Just keep
Mm-hmm.
moving until you run into something that's ready to eat because there are fish in some area of the lake that are ready to eat.
Yeah.
Um,
So this past weekend, did the water ever warm up to like high, like mid 50s, upper 60s that you saw, or kind of just because we did
um,
days in like the 80s? But
no. So this past week, like after the BFL,
oh, yeah, I meant during the BFL. Did it ever?
dude, honestly, I'm same with you, like baby sleep deprived. No, I don't think so. Like, I think maybe 54, 55 was like the water temps I was fishing in.
Mm-hmm.
So one big thing and with the spring, like that's the second time I've gotten second place in a BFL, and I'm usually like top 20 is I'm always in the spring really focused on water temperature
Mm-hmm.
because 51 to 55 fish are eating and they're definitely in pre-spawn mode. 55 to 58, they're kind of in that like, I'll eat for a little bit in the morning and then I'm just gonna go start kind of figuring out where I want to spawn.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like maybe some dudes get locked into staying in an area because they got bites in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
When those fish go into what we refer to it as, or me and a couple of my fishing partners is like zombie mode.
Mm-hmm.
They're just going into like you could throw 100 baits at them, dude. You could throw it right in their forehead, and they're just not going to eat it. They're just looking for a mate. They're looking for a bed. They're looking for something up shallow. And so I tried to stay away from those water temperatures during the tournament. So if I ran up the Blackwater and started seeing like 55, 56, I would turn around and get into a little bit of that cooler water. So
Yeah.
and I think
It,
that's what kind of happened this past week with the cat. Like I talked to a lot of guys that struggled that were like, dude, they're everywhere shallow, but they won't do anything.
mm-hmm.
So
And then yeah, it's something about that colder water that triggers them to bite. I mean, it's just a I guess a natural response for them for having reaction in colder water.
yeah,
I've heard where, the best days are in the winter when it's really nasty and cold.
yep,
Uh,
yeah.
they bite better. Um, but no, congratulations. I mean, that's
Thanks, man.
on. I was looking at the weights at the end of it. And I was like, good grief, those weights were piled up both days.
Yep.
But no, congratulations on that. Are you planning on fishing any other BFLs or any?
I don't think so, my friend.
Mm,
And I don't, I try not to be a cherry picker type of guy, but obviously I got to do it because I'm at my house.
mm-hmm,
Um, Not this year. Like I still got that paddleboard business that I'm getting off the ground. Obviously, you know that I got a youngin, and like just kind of life around here, just kind of staying close. I'll probably do some of the Bass Kings on here and bugs.
mm-hmm.
But as far as kind of the BFL stuff, it's probably a no for me this year. We'll see.
Yeah.
Maybe one of these years I'll decide to sign up for all five and kind of see.
Mhm.
Everybody knows
Yeah.
I'm not a
I was gonna do that as a co this year, and then life just got too overwhelming. I'm like,
yeah,
do I
yeah,
really spend $550 on all
yeah.
of them just to like not be able to do like three of them?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, man, it's a big investment. A lot of travel. A lot of these dudes are
Mm,
coming from Maryland, and the Piedmont stuff was a lot of dudes from North Carolina. So, yeah, dude,
yeah,
it's a big investment for it. So you got to make sure it makes sense.
and my wife doesn't like being left here with the kid by herself. I
Yeah,
get careful, but
yeah,
no, I kind of wanted to get into your co-angler's thoughts. Because he's seeing you up there, catching all these fish and getting a limit in 15 minutes. Did he ever say anything, or did they ever say anything to you like, "Oh, what are you throwing? Like, how you?"
yeah, yeah, dude, for sure. I mean, and I'm not a like, hey, don't throw over there. Like, hey, don't, you
Mm-hmm.
know, like I can't tell you what bait I'm using, dude. I will give you the exact same bait I'm throwing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Day one, my co-angler was super cool, guy named John. He basically was like, look, dude, you do you, I'll adjust. I'm really here to just kind of get points. So like he really just needed to catch one. So I think at 12 o'clock, he flipped a shaky head up into some laydowns, caught a keeper. But once he saw, after I caught that first big one on the mag draft, he was like, okay, like I get what we're going to do the rest of the time. It's going to be super quick fishing. So let's just try to see if you can get close to winning.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was kind of super cool, super supportive with that. He actually sent a super nice email to Megabass, which they forwarded to me, which was awesome because he went and picked up the same jerk bait that I was throwing on Saturday for Sunday, and he got fourth on Sunday, throwing that jerk bait. So that was pretty cool to hear that he kind of saw what I did on the first day and adjusted and caught him. And
Mm-hmm.
then my second day, dude, young kid, 15,
Mm-hmm.
he was hyped. He was hyped about fishing pretty good. He caught like a 3 pounder on a jerk bait right away. He had a couple other knock the jerk bait. Like he was close to getting a limit throughout the day. Just kind of missed the actual opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
But once I kind of was like towards the end of the day, saw that I was at like 15, 16 pounds. Like last hour, I usually, if I know I'm not going to be in a position to win, or I'm, 2 or 3 bites away from what I think is winning as opposed to one, then I'll
Mhm.
usually take the co-angler like a couple banks to try to flip, and catch 2 pounders, 3 pounders to see if I can get him into the money a little bit. But he unfortunately only caught that one 3 pounder. But I mean, dude, it's fishing. I've had co-anglers out of the back of the boat flip behind the boat and catch 5 pounders, and I've had co-anglers zero. I try not to be a dickbag, and like back boat them.
Mhm.
I try to somewhat line them up. The schooling stuff's a little bit different, because like, hey, I kind of want to keep the school activated, but also like if there's different size fish in there, I don't want you to throw in right after I catch a 2 pounder when I know there's 4 pounders in there.
Right.
So I might say something like that. But for the most part, dude, I think in general and karma and how the universe works, like just be kind. We're both out here to have fun fishing. Like, no worries, just cast wherever.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like the jerkbait and I guess the shaky head really played for co-anglers, which I mean that's not unusual.
For sure.
Really big fish on a shaky head. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I mean that's crazy. But no, I get it because I'm the co-angler, and I want my boater to be respectful, and I'll be respectful to them as well. Like
Yeah.
I don't want to have a what do you call it, a bad day on the water because we're not
No.
getting something. But no, that makes sense.
Now, if your boater is making you feel like you guys can't get along during the day, then your boater's not in the right sport. So,
Right. Yeah, I agree. Well, like I said, I appreciate you coming on and explaining this to us, and kind of breaking it down. Um, where can everybody find you if they want a guide trip or
yeah.
words? Because I know that's your new thing.
Yeah, for sure, man. So a couple things. SmithMountainLakeFishing.com is my website for guiding. I'm doing a big push this year for signing up as a subscriber on the website for the fishing report. Probably starting this month, I'm going to do like bi-weekly, like hot baits stuff that I think is going to probably work in the coming weeks. So people can check that out and they could subscribe basically to that. It'll get an automatic email with some links and like kind of ideas on where to fish and location, stuff like that. Instagram, Facebook, it's all just Billy Kohl's Fishing. Yeah, pretty straightforward. Give me a call if you got questions about the lake. I'm pretty open to it. Good luck to everybody in the big bass. If this comes out before that, be safe out there. Try not to fish in the freezing rain if you can help it. And yeah, dude, just let me know when you want me on next.
Well, I hope to have you on and you have a win at some point.
Yeah, yeah, I know, dude. I was close. I
Yeah,
was close again.
but I appreciate it. And guys, until the next episode, I really hope you guys can, again, good luck in Big Bass to everyone fishing it. Stay safe, wear your life jacket. Um, and we'll see you guys on the next one.
Thanks, man.